You know, the octagon isn't the only place fights are happening in the UFC these days. We're seeing straight-up wars of words, serious psychological warfare that's cranking the heat way before anyone even thinks about throwing a punch. Think the fights themselves are brutal? Well, the verbal smackdowns are hitting whole new levels of savagery. Stars are absolutely letting loose, and we're going to get into the most disrespectful callouts and simmering rivalries that are pretty much guaranteed to be pure fireworks. We've got one former champ totally dismissing his opponent's entire skill set, another rising star calling himself the father of the division, and Dana White? Oh, he's dropping bombshells that could seriously shake up legacies. This is where respect pretty much goes out the window and legends are made or broken before they even step foot in that cage. So stick around because we're laying it all out. Alright, first up, let's talk light heavyweight. There's a massive clash brewing for UFC Fight Night in Baku, Azerbaijan, and get this, it's the UFC's first ever event in the country. We've got former champion Jamahal Sweet Dreams Hill on a collision course with the always dangerous Khalil Rountree Jr. And believe me, the verbal jabs are flying just as fast as their fists probably will. So Jamahal Hill, a guy who's been to the top, held that light heavyweight belt, is looking to fight his way back into the title picture. He's coming off a rough knockout loss to Alex Pereira at that massive UFC 300 card back in April 2024, and then another KO loss to Jiri Prochazka in January 2025. That UFC 300 main event had to sting, especially since Hill had given up the title in 2023 because of an Achilles injury, only to watch Pereira grab it. Now Hill is hungry and his words. They're dripping with this icy confidence. He's not just looking for a win, he wants to prove he's on a completely different level. Then there's Khalil Rountree Jr. sitting at No. 7 in the division, and he's got a serious point to prove too. He also ran into Alex Pereira in a title fight at UFC 307 in October 2024 and got stopped in the 4th. Before that though, Rountree had put together some really impressive wins, showing off that scary power he's got. This fight in Baku, it's a huge chance for both these guys to stamp their authority in a division now led by Magomed Ankalaev, who took the belt from Pereira. The trash talk here isn't your typical screaming match. Nah, it's smart, it's targeted, and it's all about getting under the other guy's skin. Jamahal Hill has been almost surgically breaking down Rountree's game. In a statement that's pure mind games, Hill said, "Skill for skill, Khalil Rountree can't match me. That's not disrespect, that's reality." He's openly questioning if Rountree's even worth the hype, even saying Rountree's split decision win over Dustin Jacoby was a gift from the judges. Hill's message is loud and clear. He's the former champ, the elite fighter, and Rountree just isn't there yet. He'll give Rountree a puncher's chance, but make sure to point out that Rountree tends to get hit more than he lands. Hill sees himself as the more calculated fighter. Rountree, to his credit, isn't really biting and getting into a verbal brawl. He's heard people doubt him before. He acknowledged what Hill said, even pointing out that Hill underestimated guys like Alex Pereira and Jiri Prochazka in the past. Rountree's response? Pretty calm, actually. "I think that's a mixture of a lot of things, but it's also not the first time that I've heard this. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm prepared." Rountree actually thinks he's the more calculated striker in this fight and plans to use his athleticism. He's busy training over at Tiger Muay Thai, sharpening those strikes that have given him 9 knockout wins. The weigh-ins are done, both guys hit the mark for their 5-round main event. Hill lands about 7 significant strikes per minute, while Rountree's at 3.73, though you can't deny Rountree's power. It's a southpaw versus southpaw matchup, and it's almost a lock to be a stand-up fight since neither guy has ever landed a takedown in their UFC careers. This isn't just another fight, it's a massive test of where these two warriors really stand. For Hill, it's about showing those losses were just bumps in the road, not his new reality, and that he's still got that champion quality. For Rountree, it's his shot to shut up the doubters, take out a former champ, and skyrocket himself into that top tier of contenders. We know the UFC's making its Azerbaijan debut on June 21, 2025, with this banger as the headliner. The tension is definitely real, and what's on the line is huge. Will Hill's cold dismissal turn out to be right, or will Rountree make him choke on those words? Baku's about to get the answer. Alright, let's switch gears now to a rivalry that's absolutely dripping with bad blood. We're talking a potential mega clash between generations and fighting styles. Ilia, El Matador Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. This one feels personal, and it's got the entire lightweight division buzzing. Ilia Topuria, the undefeated sensation with a perfect 16-0 record, has been on an absolute rampage. He tore through the featherweight division, snatched the title with that incredible knockout of Alexander Volkanovski in February 2024. and then defended it by stopping Max Holloway at UFC 308 in October 2024, giving Holloway his first-ever KO loss. But Topuria isn't just kicking back. He said the weight cuts to 145 were brutal, like living in the desert, so he made a massive move. He vacated his featherweight title in February 2025 to jump up to lightweight. The UFC confirmed it, announcing that former champ Alexander Volkanovski and Diego Lopes would fight for the vacant featherweight belt at UFC 314 in April 2025. Topuria is now aiming to conquer a whole new division, and he's even ditching the El Matador nickname, teasing a new era. And who's waiting for him? Charles Oliveira. The former lightweight champ, a guy with an insane 35 wins and 10 losses, and holds the UFC records for most submission wins, 21, and most finishes. Bronx is a legit legend. He lost a close split decision to Arman Tsarukyan at UFC 300, but then bounced right back with a dominant win over Michael Chandler in their rematch at UFC 309 in November 2024. Oliveira is famous for his insane toughness and his ability to finish fights, with wins over pretty much every killer in the lightweight division. So the scene is set, the undefeated, cocky young gun moving up, and the seasoned former champ looking to get his belt back. This has all the ingredients for a classic. And guess what? The fight is on. Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira for the vacant UFC Lightweight Championship is set to headline UFC 317 on June 28, 2025. The title was left vacant by Islam Makhachev, who's apparently moving up to welterweight. You can just feel the hostility here, mostly fueled by Topuria's famous confidence, which some people, Oliveira included, see as straight-up disrespect. Oliveira has openly questioned why Topuria gets an immediate lightweight title shot, especially since he's new to the division, even with his featherweight success. Oliveira says Topuria is saying a lot of crap and being very disrespectful. Topuria, being Topuria, has fired back hard. He hit social media to clown Oliveira's 10 career losses, saying, "Charles, it's better if you stay quiet. You have 10 losses, 5 by knockout, 4 by submission, and 1 by decision. You are the contender, while I am the champion, the father of the entire division. I haven't come here to ask anything. Here, I am the one in charge." That kind of talk is pure Topuria, super confident, maybe a little arrogant, and definitely designed to get a reaction. Oliveira, while admitting Topuria's got skills, has made it clear he's ready to fight anyone for the title. He said, "If it's for the title, why not fight Ilia Topuria?" and thinks he's got the power to knock Topuria out. Looking at the stats, it's interesting. Topuria is 7 years younger, but Oliveira will have a 3-inch height and 5-inch reach advantage. Oliveira has way more pro fights and rounds under his belt. Topuria, though, packs serious power, and his recent fights show he carries it well. He's been very clear he didn't want to suffer through those featherweight cuts anymore, and wants to feel strong and healthy at lightweight. This isn't just a fight for a vacant belt, it's a battle for who's top dog and for respect. Can Topuria actually back up his massive talk and become a 2-division champ, kicking off his new era at 155? Or will Oliveira, the old-school veteran, show him that lightweight is a different animal, and that his experience and legendary jiu-jitsu, plus his underrated striking, are just too much for the rising Spaniard? The father of the entire division, against the guy who's submitted more people than anyone in UFC history. UFC 317 on June 28th is going to give us the answer. The trash talk has definitely set the stage for something explosive. One thing's for sure, whoever wins isn't just the new lightweight king, they'll have some serious bragging rights. Beyond the rivalries in the cage, sometimes the biggest bombshells drop straight from the UFC president, Dana White. And what he's recently said about former UFC heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou has sent some pretty clear and final-sounding shockwaves through the MMA world. Francis Ngannou, the Predator, a name that just screams terrifying knockout power, famously split with the UFC in early 2023 while he was still the heavyweight champ. It was a complicated breakup, involving contract issues, Ngannou wanting more freedom, and his ambition to try boxing. Since then, Ngannou has made some big moves outside the UFC, fighting in high-profile boxing matches against Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, and signing with the Professional Fighters League, PFL. He reportedly even won the PFL Super Fights heavyweight title with a first-round KO of Renan Pereira on October 19, 2024. For years, a dream fight for so many fans was Ngannou versus Jon Jones, who many consider the greatest mixed martial artist ever. When Jones won the UFC heavyweight title, all those what-ifs about Ngannou coming back just got louder. The tension here isn't between two fighters about to throw down, but between a former champion and the boss of the promotion he left. Dana White has never been shy about speaking his mind. and his position on Ngannou possibly returning, especially for a super fight with Jones, has gotten more and more blunt. Even though Ngannou recently showed up at a UFC weigh-in, which got some people talking, White basically poured cold water on those rumors. In recent statements, White made it crystal clear. Francis Ngannou coming back to the UFC, particularly to fight Jon Jones, is just not happening. "I don't have Ngannou under contract," White said, hammering home that the UFC's focused on its current champions like Tom Aspinall, the interim, and now probably undisputed heavyweight champ, depending on what happens with Jones. When someone pushed him on whether he'd try to re-sign Ngannou, White's answer was a hesitant "probably not," which pretty much cemented his stance. The war of words has kept going, with White recently saying Ngannou isn't a good guy and that they don't like each other and will never be in business together. White has also publicly questioned how well Ngannou is doing financially outside the UFC, claiming Ngannou would have made more money if he'd stayed, and that the PFL made a bad deal. Ngannou fired back, calling White's money claims a lie and insisting he's made way more since leaving. He accused White of being unable to stand that he won everything in their dispute. Ngannou even claimed the UFC still owes him money from past fights. Dana White's statements are a pretty harsh reminder of the business side of things, and sometimes the personal beefs that run under the surface of the sport. For fans who were dreaming of seeing the Predator back in the UFC octagon for those huge matchups, White's words are a massive, maybe even final, disappointment. The door for a Francis Ngannou UFC return looks like it's been slammed shut, at least for now, according to the UFC president. White's attention is on the fighters he currently has under contract. While Ngannou continues his career in the PFL and boxing, his UFC chapter and all those monster fights that could have been seems to be over. That shocking statement isn't just one quote. It's a consistent, increasingly personal brush-off of any future deal. The light heavyweight division, even beyond the upcoming Hill vs. Rountree Jr. Fireworks, is in a really interesting, if a bit stalled, spot right now. Magomed Ankalaev won the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship by beating Alex Pereira by unanimous decision at UFC 313 on March 8, 2025. Naturally, everyone started talking about an immediate rematch. Ankalaev himself was eager, even teasing an August date. Pereira, after losing, promised he'd come back stronger, but then the rematch hit a bump. Reports in April 2025 said Alex Pereira broke his hand, which put a stop to talks for an immediate return. While Ankalaev initially wanted that August rematch, Pereira apparently turned down a fight at UFC 317 in late June because he wasn't available, not necessarily just because of the injury at that specific moment. Ankalaev has since hinted that Pereira might be retired and that it's time to move on, saying he's ready for other challengers. This whole situation just adds another layer of spice to that Hill vs. Rountree fight. With the champion, Ankalaev, possibly looking for new opponents if the Pereira rematch stays delayed or doesn't happen, a big win for either Hill or Rountree could shoot them way closer to an unexpected title shot than they might have thought. The top of 205 is always shifting, and injuries and stalled talks can change everything really fast. Man, the UFC landscape is an absolute inferno of rivalries right now. From Jamahal Hill's ice-cold takedowns of Khalil Rountree Jr. as they head into the UFC's historic Baku debut, to Ilia Topuria's unbelievably bold claim of being the father of the lightweight division as he gets ready to throw down with the legend Charles Oliveira for that vacant belt. The trash talk is as heavy as the punches are going to be. And Dana White, he's not pulling any punches either, making it perfectly clear where the UFC stands on any Francis Ngannou comeback. These aren't just some pre-fight hype lines, folks. These are deep-rooted grudges, calculated mind games, and seriously bold statements that are setting the stage for some epic showdowns. The lines have been drawn, the challenges are out there, and all this disrespect is fueling what are shaping up to be some of the most explosive fights of the year. So what do you think? Which of these feuds is the most intense? Who's walking away with the bragging rights and, more importantly, the win? Drop your predictions in the comments below. And if you love getting into the UFC's most savage trash talk and heated rivalries, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and smash that notification bell so you never miss an episode where we uncover all the drama, both inside and outside the octagon.